Alright, time for the top 8 champions you must play to blast patch 14.10. Last week we were working with predictions, but now it is clear that these champs are deleting nerds wherever they go. And hey, if you feel like we are missing any particular OP champ in this list for 14.10, make sure to drop it in a comment down below. Now, let's kick off this list with Corki. Just like we expected, Corki is a total menace with the new rework, making his E one of the strongest early and mid-game fighting abilities in the game. His ability to be flexible in both roles and builds is also what makes him incredibly OP. He can go mid lane or bot and build either DPS with Triforce and Infinity Edge, or lethality poke with Hubris, Collector, and Opportunity. Once folks figured out that maxing Q wasn't correct anymore and that maxing your E and building serrated deck was the move, this champ began one-shotting people at level 5 as the E armor shred paired with the lethality from deck meant you were essentially doing true damage. Now there is so much more to talk about in terms of how broken Corki is, so if you want to master this busted champ, why not visit GameLeap.com? In fact, click on the link in the description box below right now to sign up to GameLeap and master every single champion covered in this video. We've got hundreds and hundreds of guides authored by challenger coaches for every role and scenario you can think up. We are talking macro guides, champion-specific courses, learning deep dives, and more. So again, hit the link below right now to sign up and climb like a demon in Season 14. Next up on the list is a champ we knew was going to be OP since the release of Blackfire Torch, and that is Karthus. Please note that even before patch 14.10, Karthus was already on the verge of being a Z-tier champion, as he has few counters in the jungle, and the AP items already benefited him heavily. With the release of Blackfire Torch, Karthus has spiraled out of control. It has been a long time since we've seen a champion with a ban rate higher than 40%, and Karthus is shattering that every day since this patch. Karthus has been known to have a quick clear speed, which is what allows him to get a lot of tempo on the map. This in turn lets you reset first to get Fated Ashes and essentially double your clear speed, so by the time you are level 6, the enemy jungler may still be hating his life at level 4. The key note, however, is that you must value your camps over ganking early game, as losing a jungle camp would not only cost you important experience for levels, but because you are so ahead when the jungle camps respawn, they will be higher level than the opponents since they correlate to your level. So if you lose a camp due to overstaying for a gank, you might give back a lot of XP that you gained in a lead previously. So stay focused on your camps and simply press R to help out your team when needed. Lilia has also benefited from this patch, as the meta right now favors AP junglers and it's pretty much a full clear meta, both of which Lilia is down for. While her clear isn't the fastest on the first rotation, after Fated Ashes and 2 points in Q, you ramp up that clear speed pretty quickly. It also helps that the overall meta is very heavy in damage right now, so picking a champion that can sleep enemies, tank a decent chunk of damage, and dish it out just as well is pretty good. A juicy, saucy tip for Lilia players is to exploit a mechanic that Rengar mains use, where you keep a camp at 1 HP when looking for a gank. You do this to keep up your passive stacks so you can then run into the lane at godly speed rather than showing up normally. If you do it properly, very few laners will be able to react to a 500 movement speed Lilia running into their lane at level 6. Now, one more jungler has also made the cut for being completely busted, and you've already heard her name before. It is Taliyah. Taliyah has been a menace in the jungle, and not just because she abuses the same items and mechanics as Karthus and Lilia. She also abuses the fact that there are carries who don't have mobility that are quite prevalent right now, such as Jhin, Caitlyn, and Jinx. This means she can pick up easy kills by walling them off and seismic shoving them on repeat. A lot of the topside champions right now are also very dash heavy. Camille, Fiora, and Jax are just a few of the most common champions being picked, and when you lay down the rocks, they can't jump anymore. In our opinion, Taliyah is the most broken jungler out there right now, with the drawback being that she is very mechanically intensive. But if you think you've got the skills for her, by all means, then seismic shove that LP deep up your account. Moving on, bot lane has found its titans, with Caitlyn and Jhin being the top tier ADCs of the patch. There were discussions of Samira and Draven, but a few days after 14.10 went live, a hotfix nerf came in and kicked them down a notch. They are still good, Samira and Draven, but not as reliable as Caitlyn and Jhin. Caitlyn has become a super high priority pick, as she can be blind picked and can do both strong and weak side. A common misconception is that Caitlyn always has to have Prio and force enemies under their turret. While that is the ideal scenario, that is not the only scenario in which she can pop off. Caitlyn will do just fine sitting under her own turret. She can set up traps to prevent dives. She can build lethality early and use Q to one-shot minion waves, or you can press R on cooldown with First Strike to farm enemies for gold. Caitlyn, mid to late game, is one of the scariest ADCs we have seen in a while because, upon completing Collector, Infinity Edge, and Lord Doms, she can actually one-shot squishies with just one headshot. Almost no other champion in the game has a genuine one-click one-shot, but Caitlyn does. Now, do be aware, nerfs for Cait are on the horizon, so while you still can, grab your rifle and snipe your enemies out of the game. Now, many players thought that Jhin would not be very good in 14.10, as crit items weren't really his thing. For many seasons, Jhin defaulted to being a lethality user to abuse his strong laning phase and early spikes. Well, he still does. But now he also mixes in crit to scale to infinity. Jhin right now might be the highest AD champion in the game, as during our testing, we managed to hit 900 AD in a 40-minute game. That was thanks to the first lethality item you will be rushing, which is Hubris. Hubris Jhin did not die with the new patch. In fact, some might say it got even stronger. This is because while most ADCs are relying on hitting 2 to 3 items to start spiking, Jhin spikes at Hubris, and then again at Collector, and then again at IE, and on it goes. Rushing Hubris allows you to really abuse Jhin's early game versus these immobile ADCs. You get a good landing phase, which then lets you start stacking up. Another reason why Hubris is so good is because you are not like other ADCs right now who are locked out by BF Sword. If the enemy can't base with 1300 gold, you can still base to buy longswords or Dirk. You have the ability to power creep through the early game, and God forbid you get ahead, as if you are ahead as Jhin, you start two-shotting things. Pick up Jhin with Hubris, Collector, LDR, and Infinity Edge now while you can. Before we get to our last two champions, let's touch on two things. Camille is still the undisputed best top laner, so we're just going to name drop her here and then move swiftly on. If you do want to know why she is so nutty, then just check out our older videos, of which I'm sure she has been in the last 5 before this one. And the other topic is the change in runes. This is going to be a very important topic, as these changes made a lot of mages S tier, but it also brought back a support champion from the dead. First Strike has been changed to where it does less damage early in exchange for more gold on proc. Upon activation, you gain 15 gold, which is a lot for the early game. Combine this with Cashback, the new rune that returns you 7% gold from every legendary item you buy, and now you have this new series of builds called tax evasion builds. A lot of mages are taking First Strike, Cashback, and rushing Blackfire Torch because of how gold efficient this combination is. Picking champs with high range and pokes such as LeBlanc, where, and our last pick that we're about to mention, will not only grant you a ton of gold in-game, but tons of LP as well. So, without further ado, one of the best supports of the patch has got to be Morgana. Morgana W in lane is the easiest way to proc First Strike off cooldown with no risk of the enemy ever poking you before you proc it. She also abuses Blackfire Torch, so you can get instant damage whenever you bind and pool enemies. And in a meta full of engage and hook champions, Morgana's Black Shield is a lifesaver. Our biggest tip for those who want to get into playing Morgana support is to max E first. Q already snares enemies for 2 seconds, which is long enough for your team to follow up and kill the binded target. W is just to proc First Strike and apply Blackfire. E is the key ability to reduce the cooldown to 8 seconds. If you've been on this channel for a while, you know how much we have hated on Morgana, but now it is safe to say she is back and at the top of the ladder. So hey man, if you want to master Morgana and every other champion covered on this list, don't forget to go ahead and check out GameLeap.com, linked down below in the video description, to unlock access to hundreds and hundreds of guides covering every facet of League of Legends. Make sure to drop any busted champions that we missed for patch 14.2 in the comments down below, and we shall catch all of y'all just a tad bit later.